With the NFL draft just 1 month away, exactly 1 month away, it's time to talk about some more mock drafts, man. I gave my full first round mock draft in the last video I did on here on YouTube, but I want to talk about each team from each division, right? I'm going to break it down week by week on what I believe said team will do come draft time. Now, before I get into this, there will be no trades in my mock drafts, right? It's going to be 4 rounds, right? So if your team only has about 2 picks within those 4 rounds, I'm sorry, but I will do my best and, trying to add the most talent and the best talent possible for said team, right? Today, we're going to start off with the AFC South, right? I'm a Jaguars fan, so I want to touch base on my team and then the other teams in my division because I have a better feel for those teams, right? I was able to kind of jot these notes down rather quickly in comparisons to talking about the NFC West, for example, right? So, ready to get right into it. So before I start, please, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, right? We're at 349 subscribers. I would love to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the draft, right? We'll see, but consistency is key. We have a full month. I'm dropping these videos week by week, covering each and every division when it comes to the mock drafts. And also, if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you follow the show. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you like the show and rate it 5 stars. Now, let's get right into this, man, because I'm excited, really excited to get in this mock draft. I love mock draft season, man. It is such a fun time to just play GM, right? You have your thoughts on what your team should do around this time of the year, but the GMs and the guys that get paid the big bucks to make these rosters fulfilled, they have different stances, right? They may reach, they may undersell, who knows? But I'm going to start it off in the AFC South, of course, and I want to go from last to first, right? I want to touch base, not really. Well, I guess you can pretty much say I'm going in draft order. So the Titans pick first, the Jaguars will pick second, the Colts will pick third, and of course the Texans will pick last in the pecking order of the AFC South. Draft. Now, of course, a few more teams have more picks than others, but regardless, though, I want to do it that way in that pecking order. So let's begin with the Tennessee Titans, who, of course, had the first overall pick. Now, my mock draft, I had the Titans selecting Cam Ward, right? I think is an obvious choice. Before I get into that, and I have my notes right here. I'm sorry. I want to speak about the acquisitions and the free agency pull-ins these teams made during the offseason, so you can kind of see where I went with their draft selection. Now, quickly with the Titans, right? They did a really good job, in my opinion, of identifying or showcasing to us what direction they were going to go in the draft, right? They obviously made a big addition in bringing in Dan Moore to tackle, right? He's going to be the new franchise starting tackle for this team. They paid him a lot of money, right? They brought in Cody Barton, Van Jefferson. These are depth pieces and also quality starters, I would say. Durante Jones, strong side defensive end. I brought in Kevin Zettler, right? Guard from Minnesota, I want to say, or Indianapolis. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, the Lions. So he brought in an older veteran guard, and also he brought in Xavier Woods for a safety spot, and also some other quality retains, and also some free agent signings as well, and also they retained Sebastian Day. So Sebastian Joseph Day. I'm sorry, my apologies. So you kind of see where they're going. They made an emphasis on grabbing some offensive line pieces. They brought in some quality starters on their defense. They retained their guys, and also they brought in a receiving option. We all know this receiving department needs some help. So that's something to definitely keep in mind when it comes down to this draft. But they don't have a legitimate one. I guess their one will have to be Calvin Ridley because of the price they're paying him right now. But he's a wide receiver too, in my opinion. But regardless, though, I think the biggest needs the Titans need to hit on in this year's draft with their 4 picks within the first 4 rounds would have to be, of course, quarterback, wide receiver, edge, linebacker, and corner, right? I based that off what NFL.com has said. Well, a lot of Titans beat writers and what they're saying on their, Titans Wire and whatnot, their websites, they're plugged in, of course, way more than I am. So I'm going off, the overall draft needs and also how the depth chart is shaking out right now. So to get back to what I was saying before I gave you my breakdown on how I'm doing these things, at pick 1 and my mock draft I dropped last week, my mock draft 1.0 for YouTube, I had the Titans grabbing Cam Ward. I'm sticking with that, right? I think is the obvious choice, franchise quarterback, Mike Borgonzi. the previous general manager with the Chiefs. Now, I'm sorry, previous front office executive with the Chiefs is now the GM for the Titans. So you're going to see a more than likely Chiefs type build with this team within this draft. Maybe not this year per se, but definitely for the following years. They're definitely going to go off that culture, that championship roster they put together, right? Quality quarterback, of course. They got to grab the quarterback. You're going to see them, try to add some weapons and of course defensive additions as well. But at pick one, they got to go quarterback. I think Cam is a franchise changer. I think he can come in and step in and be an immediate impact. I think he's a future top 10 quarterback in this league. I love his game a lot, and he's my QB1 in this year's draft class. At round 2, pick 35, and I did this, and I only selected 4 teams in this mock, of course, right? So I had no control of any other 28 teams in the mock. But at pick number 35, round 2, Emeka Ibuka was on the board. I had to grab him, right? Now, of course, in a lot of mocks, Daniel Jeremiah most notably, he had Luther Burden and Emeka Ibuka falling to the second round, right? Now, of course, in this draft on Pro Football Network, Luther Burden wasn't there, but Emeka Ibuka was, and I had to snack him up, right? I think he can definitely step in and be that wide receiver 1 for Cam Ward, right? I think Cam Ward did a really brilliant job at Miami with the connection he had with Xavier Restrepo. I think he can have that similar connection with Emeka Ibuka for the foreseeable future, right? I think Emeka has all pro capabilities, Pro Bowl capabilities. He's a slot guy, of course, but he can definitely have that Amon-Ra St. Brown impact for this Titans offense. And I think it'll be fantastic for someone like Brian Callahan to work with as a play caller as well. In the 4th round, because the Titans have no 3rd round pick, at pick 103, I have them grabbing Cam Ward's defensive teammate, Tyler Barron, edge rusher. Now, Tyler Barron is a former Tennessee Volunteer. He transferred to Miami this past year, was a part of a stacked defensive line. Now, of course, the defense in totality didn't live up to the billing, but the defensive line still held their own, right? He was solid enough, in my opinion, in the absence of Ruben Bain throughout the chunk of the season. I thought he could have been a bit better this year, but he has the track record to back up his abilities, in my opinion. I think he's going to be a very solid run stopper, controlling the edge and whatnot. He definitely can bring that pass rushing juice, something that this defense desperately needs, in my opinion, because they weren't able to generate a lot of pressures. They weren't able to create a lot of turnovers. So you can have Tyler Barron, Jeffrey Simmons still, of course, Tremonte Jones. You still have Arden Key, and you're going to be able to bring in maybe some more edge depth after the draft, and also maybe in this draft class, I think Tyler Barron can come in and have a 3-4 sack season, and of course be a future legitimate starter, maybe like a Harold Landry for this team in the foreseeable future, right? At pick 120. Round 4, of course, they have two 4th round picks. I have the Titans selecting Kobe Bryant, cornerback out of Kansas. I think Kobe Bryant may be one of the most underrated cornerbacks in this year's class, right? He's a bit thinner in frame. He didn't test the 40 time well at the combine, but at 6 foot, about 180, I want to say, when he takes the field, he's going to be a legitimate outside boundary corner to play alongside L'Jarius Sneed, Roger McCreary, and also I think his name is Jarvis Brownlee, I want to say. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but Jarvis Brownlee and their secondary, right? Then it's going to be a solid secondary group. And Kobe Bryant brings that cornerback juice that I believe the Chiefs have had in the past, right? The Chiefs and their management, Brett Veach, has done a really good job of scouting cornerbacks. Now, I'm not sure how much Mike Borgonzi had the input on that, but he's been around ideal cornerbacks, right? And I think Kobe Bryant fits the mold of what they wanted to do defensively going forward. And I think he definitely come in and be a starter by mid-season, in my opinion. So, I know I ran through that pretty quick, but the Titans have 4 picks in the first 4 rounds. And I think pretty much I tried my best to hit on every single need. Now, of course, I didn't address linebacker, but they did sign, if I'm not mistaken, they did bring in Cody Barton in free agency. I forgot to mention that. So, Cody Barton's a day 1 starter. They're going to need someone next to him. Like I said, they can find someone later in the rounds or maybe make some more trades to acquire some more picks in the 3rd or 4th round. But nevertheless, though, I think this is a great groundwork class for the Titans to work with. You got the franchise quarterback, you got your franchise wide receiver corner, you got two cornerstone offensive pieces, and of course, you got two quality defensive pieces who can turn into legitimate impact guys this year or for the foreseeable future. So I thought I did pretty well. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about the Titans side of things. Moving on to the Jaguars, of course, who pick at number 5, and they have a top 5 pick in pretty much every single round, outside of their second, third, and fourth round picks because they were acquired in last year's draft via trades and whatnot, right? So the Jaguars, I talked about this previously on what they did with their free agency haul. Not much, in my opinion. Right, James Gladstone, the new general manager, player scout from the LA Rams, he is bringing in that mindset that hey, we can build through the draft and we can sign. We don't have to break the bank, or we can go bargain shopping and really fulfill this roster with legitimate homegrown talent. And I'm 50-50 on that. I think you need some legitimacy and some vets who are around the younger age of around from 25 to about 28 quality starters, right? You don't have to break the bank, you know what I'm saying, for Javon Holland or a Trayvon Moehrig or a Jeremy Chin, in my opinion. But nevertheless, though, I made a whole video about that. The Jaguars obviously have a lot of needs, in my opinion. Regardless of what they may say, they're a 4-win team. They have to go out there and draft accordingly, right? Now, of course, the free agency hauls were, Patrick McCarry, offensive Swiss Army knife, I guess you can say, from the offensive line standpoint. He can play tackle, guard, and center. They brought in Robert Hansley. That's going to be their new center as of right now, previously from the Buccaneers. Dimey Brown, their wide receiver 3, in my opinion. I think they need to go out there and get a 2, but you can pencil him as a 2 or 3 alongside Gabe Davis, however you want to pencil that in. And also, they brought in Jordan Lewis to be their starting slot, our nickel corner, I'm sorry. Eric Murray to be their, starting safety, however that may look. And, some swing tackles and some backup tight ends, right? So this draft is going to be huge. And I honestly love what I did in this draft because I think I hit on pretty much every key area. So the Jaguars, in my opinion, have a need for cornerback, wide receiver 2. I'm sorry. They're not in order, by the way. So cornerback, wide receiver 2, defensive tackle, edge 3, and a safety, right? And pick 5, I have the Jaguars drafting Travis Hunter, cornerback, wide receiver, arguably the best player in this draft class. I'm sticking to that, right? I think he's going to be there at 5. The anticipation has been growing. The rumors, there's been smoke behind a lot of Travis Hunter at 5. I think if he's there, the Jaguars run the card up to the podium. So at 5, I have Travis Hunter. What he plays primarily, maybe a wide receiver day 1, cornerback day 1. I don't know. They're going to figure that out when he touches campus, pretty much, when he touches, Miller Electric Center. So at pick 36, round 2, I have them going Walter Nolan, right? I think this defensive tackle class is very loaded. I had a Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, at this spot. I went Walter Nolan. I think he is more of the Mason Graham type mold where he can stop the run at an elite level, but also generate pass rush ability as well. I think Kenneth Grant is more of a 3 technique. No problem with that at all. But if they want that versatility at the D tackle spot, I think Walter Nolan can definitely provide that, and he'll be a instant starter alongside, however they want to line up with, Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton, or Mason Smith, their second round pick from last year's class, right? I think Walter Nolan is a sure thing. At pick 70, round 3, I have them grabbing a safety, right? They need a safety for sure, in my opinion. And I'm taking Andrew Makuba, safety out of Texas. I think he is one of the best safeties in his class. He's a bit lighter in frame. I want to say he's around like 177 to about 180. But he's a safety that is very intelligent when he touches the field. If you watch his tape against Ohio State in the college football playoffs, he was really good at trying to manipulate the eyes of someone like forgetting the quarterbacks. Walker Howard, I think that's his name. Last name Howard. I'm sorry. Howard Walker. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting his name. But the quarterback for OSU, right, did a good job of, trying to have that shade coverage over Jeremiah Smith and of course Emeka Ibuka. And they did their thing regardless, right? But he did a really good job, in my opinion, of playing that game, right? If you watch his film and also throughout his collegiate career, he's been, one of the best safeties in college football without question, right? And I love his game. At pick 88, round 3, I have him going Josiah Stewart, edge rusher out of Michigan. I think Josiah Stewart may not be available at pick round 3. He has been skyrocketing up draft boards, but he is a edge rusher that provides a lot of juice. He is a guy that can kind of line up as a outside linebacker as well. He can play with his hands, not in the dirt, which is very versatile for a Anthony Campanelli defense from what we've been seeing with the Packers tape and whatnot. And I think Anthony can definitely thrive with someone like Josiah Stewart. You've been hearing a lot of talk of potentially the Jaguars taking Jalen Walker out of Georgia. I don't think they will at pick 5, but Josiah Stewart can definitely be that type of player that Anthony Campanelli can mold into, and also, in my opinion, be a bit more disciplined in his edge rushing, setting the edge, and also his linebacker abilities. And he's a Michigan Wolverine. A lot of these guys from Michigan, I want at least one player, in my opinion, from this championship defense Michigan had, the last 2 years or so, right? So that was the 2 third-round picks. Moving on to the 4th round, I have the Jaguars at pick 107, grabbing wide receiver 2 and Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Now, if you ever stayed up and watched, Mountain West football, you probably didn't watch it too much, right? But when they played Colorado the first year Deion touched campus, that was a electrifying game, and Torrey Horton lit them up, right? Yes, he lit up Travis Hunter one-on-one, mano-a-mano, had a great game. I think he went for like 166, I want to say, as a receiver. No touchdowns, but he was catching damn near everything, and he was putting on a clinic, right? He suffered, I want to say, an ACL injury earlier this year. Wasn't able to put together a lot of tape, but you look at his previous film and also knowing that he ran a 4.42 at the combine and looked really good coming off an ACL injury, magnificent. I think he will fall, unfortunately, but this is a guy that's had multiple 1,000 plus yard seasons in college. He's a legitimate 4-year starter, and I think he can definitely come in and be that wide receiver 2 for Trevor Lawrence and play alongside BTJ and Travis Hunter, right? I don't really want to see Gabe Davis too much this year. I would like to see the possibilities of Travis Hunter, BTJ, Torrey Horton, and Diami Brown. I think that's a really explosive and fast receiving core that can definitely get the job done any given Sunday, right? And I think for sure, regardless of what position, Travis Hunter primarily plays, I think Torrey has the capabilities of being a wide receiver 2 in his league alongside BTJ. And James Gladstone has done a really good job of scouting receivers at his time in LA. And of course, he was a huge reason on the bringing in of someone like Puka Nacua, who was found in the 5th round. So, take it for what it is on that. Now, with the 2nd, 4th round pick 126, I have them grabbing center Seth McLaughlin out of the Ohio State University. Now, of course, they have to add some type of a trench, right? I think it's good to bring in another center to play behind someone like Robert Hensley, just in case Robert Hensley goes down. I don't want to see Luke Fortner touch the field. I know he has the continuity with Liam Cohen dating back to their Kentucky days, but Luke Fortner is terrible, regardless of who the coach is, regardless of who the staff is, regardless of who the scout team is. He is terrible, right? I don't want to see him on the field no more. Hopefully, it's a roster cut during the offseason, preseason and whatnot. But I would definitely let them see the address a center. And grabbing one in the 4th round lets me know that he can play guard, center. He was a legitimate, 4-year starter at the center position at Ohio State. He suffered some injuries, but I think he's a solid guy when he touches the field. And he also does a really good job of, run blocking, holding his ground as a center and whatnot and a guard. And I think he can definitely play both at the next level. So, those are my that's my 4-round mock draft for the Jags. I think we hit on in this draft, in my draft at least, I think we hit on some key areas, especially Corner, wide receiver, D tackle, and edge, right? And safety too. I mean, I think safety, D tackle, wide receiver two, and cornerback are our most important needs, especially D tackle, cornerback, and safety. So I try my best. Think a lot of fans will like that. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about my Jaguars for round mock. Now, before I get into my last two teams, I want to thank you guys so much for listening. And I know I'm going pretty fast and maybe stumbling over my words. This is a raw cut. I don't really want to edit this too much. So, sorry if I'm stumbling a bit. It is damn near 12:30 in the morning. So I'm trying to, get this out so I can go to bed. But thank you all so much for tapping in. Like always, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Follow the pod on Spotify and also Apple Podcasts. Now, for the Colts, I think the Indianapolis Colts are one of the most aggressive teams in free agency in the AFC South, in my opinion, when it comes to player acquisitions. They lost a lot. They lost Will Fries, EJ Speed, Julian Blackman, Ryan Kelly, Dale. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he signed with the Bears, right, as a an edge, starting edge for them potentially, right? So they lost some pieces, but it also gave them the ability to sign some important needs, right? We all know the secondary need to be addressed, and they grabbed Charvarius Ward, Cameron Bynum, and Corey Ballantyne, right? I think all three of those players, especially Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum, will be day one starters. They brought in Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, right, to be that competition for Anthony Richardson this offseason, right? During the preseason, during training camp, right? It's going to put some fuel on his fire, which is big because, I think Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen may be on their last go round with this Colts team. In my opinion, you can't fail at pick 4 and expect to be back for the long term, regardless of what the record may be. They may be another 7, 8, 9 win team, but if they're not in the playoffs with their starting quarterback and Anthony Richardson, they're going to get fired, in my opinion. So this draft is going to be big. Now, of course, I thought I did a really good job of the free agency pickups. So let's move towards the draft. They only have 4 picks within the first 4 rounds before any trades. Like I said, I'm not doing any trades. They may do some significant trades on draft night, but we'll see. They have needs, like all teams do, of course. They have a need for tight end, offensive line, linebacker, and edge. Maybe even an RB2, but I'm not doing that, right? So at pick 14, first round, unfortunately, Tyler Warren was off the board by the time I picked at 14. So I went with the second best tight end in this year's class, and Colston Loveland out of Michigan. I think Colston Loveland is the how can I say this with all due respect to all the phenomenal tight ends in the league? I think he's the Trey McBride of this year's tight end group. I think he is a more than capable receiving option. I think he needs to improve as a blocker, and that will come with time. But the receiving ability, and he has a chance to be an all-around tight end. I think Trey McBride is a great comp, in my opinion. He was legitimate with the Michigan Wolverines. He had a better, of course, 2024 season. 2023 season. But this year, he was definitely the only receiving option they had, and he still put up some solid numbers. I think he'll be an amazing fit for whoever the quarterback is, rather if it's DJ or Anthony Richardson. Hopefully it's AR, so he can have another weapon to rely on offensively. And I think that'll be a good offense to have, right? You'll have Michael Pittman, Adrian Mitchell, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor, and Colston Loveland. In a perfect world, you'll want Tyler Warren. But if you can get Colston Loveland along with those other offensive pieces, in my opinion, the brother has no excuse. You have the weaponry. Your offensive line is still pretty solid, right? You still have Raymond, Quentin Nelson. You have a new center this year, the one you brought in last year via draft. I'm drawing a blank on the other on the right guard and the right tackle. But regardless, though, it's still a very solid offensive line. You're going to have the weapons with Colston Loveland coming in. So I think that is a great pickup for them. And I think he'll, really work some magic with this Colts offense. I'm not going to sit up here and say he'll have a Brock Bowers type year, but I think he'll definitely crack at least 500, 600 yards, maybe even more, with Shane Steichen and his ability to get the tight ends involved, because we all know he comes from that Nick Sirianni tree, and they love getting their tight ends involved when they have the opportunity. So that'd be a great, great pickup for them. At pick 45 in the second round, I have them going edge rusher, Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. Now, for those who don't know about Landon Jackson, he is the light skin, bald face, head, eyebrows, all that. It looks like Deadpool from the Wolverine Origins. I'm sorry, the Wolverine origin story. He had that very funny edge rushing drill in his All American camp, where he was very, very weak on the pass rushing technique on the pass rushing bags. But the guy is a force now, right? Since then, right? He went to LSU, transferred to Arkansas, and he's completely changed as a player. And of course, he's grown, right? He has way better technique. He's gotten strong. He's gotten bigger in size. He's got more athletic. He had a really good combine. I want to say he had close to a 40-inch vertical. Had a great, 10-yard split. 20-yard split, broad jump, all that more, man. He is a specimen. And he's going to be really good at the next level, right? So if you can bring him in to go up part of a defensive line that has Grover Stewart, Liatu Latu, who you drafted last year, who we expect to be better this upcoming season, and also DeForest Buckner, they have a good thing going out there. And also, you can't forget about the edge rusher they got a few years ago out of Michigan. Forgetting his name, drawing a blank. My goodness, man, I'm drawing a blank. What is his name? I gotta look this up. But regardless, though, I feel as if you can add Landon Jackson to this defensive front with the secondary play, and also Luann Romo being the head coach, the defensive coordinator, Queedy Pay. That's what I'm thinking about. So you have Queedy Pay, Samson, Ubicam. You know what I'm saying? They'll have a little pass rush by committee going on over there. A 3-man rotation of the pass rush. If you bring in Landon Jackson, so I think that'll be huge for them. In the third round at pick 80, I have them grabbing their linebacker replacement after losing EJ Speed, Danny Stuntsman, linebacker out of Oklahoma. This is the perfect linebacker, in my opinion, to play alongside Zaire Franklin, a guy that's sideline to sideline. He ran a 4.5, 140, I want to say. Extremely athletic, willing tackler. Brett Venables spoke really highly, of course, of him during his time at Oklahoma. I think he has all the tools to being one of those linebacking gems we look up, 2 or 3 years from now. I'm like, damn, he was available in the third round. Of course he was, because they don't really value the linebacking position in the league anymore. But I think Danny Stutzman, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, forgive me, can be an excellent linebacker at the next level. And of course, Luann Romo's defense, when it was at its heyday with the Bengals, thrived off excellent linebacker play with Logan Wilson and, of course, Jermaine Pratt. So I think if you bring in someone like Danny Stoutsman to go along Zaire Franklin, that'll be good for this defense. At pick round 4, pick 117, I have them going guard, for a depth piece. Jackson Slate, guard out of Sacramento State. Coming from what that is, that Division II football. Could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Definitely not maybe D1. I don't know. But Sac State, very interesting guard prospect that's been rising up the boards a lot. Has great size. I want to say he's around like 6'4", 315, 310. Really athletic for a guard as well. Can definitely get out on the run and, pull and make those run blocking needs. He's a project for sure, but I think, the Colts done a really good job of, developing guards in his years past. So I think if, you have someone like Will Fries, he's gone, of course, so is Ryan Kelly, but you can bring in someone like Jackson Slate to come to potentially fill one of those needs. That'll definitely be ideal for this Colts team. So, the Colts, in my opinion, always do a really solid job of drafting. So they really rounded their rosters really well. And like I said, they did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, in bringing in free agency acquisitions. So now with this draft class of Colston, Landon, Danny, and Jackson, that will definitely be some great additions to a team that's, in my opinion, potentially, if they can get the quarterback situation right, may be a wild card team in the upcoming season. So we'll see. Because I'm really a big fan of the hire of Luana Romo, even though maybe people may believe he is washed, but I think he is, just had a bad hand he was dealt with in the last year or two with the Bengals personnel defensively. So, all right, moving on to the last thing to talk about in the AFC South, mock draft predictions or mock draft 4-round mock. The Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans were a busy team this offseason in regards to trades. Yeah, pretty much trades, right? Um, one of the first trades they made was was trading away Laramie Tunsil to the Washington Commanders for some draft picks, right? And they also traded away Kenyon Green, I want to say, or one of their guards for Chauncey Gardner Jr., which was a huge trade. So they filled their safety needs. So they signed Cam Robinson, Langston Tomlinson, Nick Neiman, Mario Edwards, traded for, of course, Christian Kirk as well. But the biggest thing was they traded away Laramie Tunsil to free up some cap space to sign Derek Stingley, and of course, more than likely next year, Stroud. He's due for his contract here soon. Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter potentially on extension. Kamari Lassiter down the road, Jalen Petrie maybe if he's retained. So on and so forth, right? And also maybe in a Nico Collins extension or money upgrade, right? A restructure. I'm sorry, a raise in the grand scheme. So it was smart to get off the Laramie Tunsil, contract. And I do believe he was movable, right? I think he's still a great player, but the lack of consistency last year when it came down to the penalties and costing the offense in totality and big moments definitely was a huge reason why they let him go, in my opinion, or traded him away. And they also brought in some draft capital, which is huge. So this mock may be a bit boring if you're a Texans fan, but I think it's definitely going to be very vital in providing enough protection up front for C.J. Stroud, their franchise quarterback. Now, like I said, they brought in Langston Tomlinson, Cam Robinson. They already have some guys on roster, but, that's still makeshift, in my opinion. They need some legit starters, maybe even an all-pro if they can grab one in the first round or a Pro Bowl tackle. So at pick 25, and I'm not sure how he continues to slide down these mock drafts. We'll see what happens on the actual draft night. But I have been grabbing Kelvin Banks Jr. tackle out of Texas. I think arguably he is the second best tackle in this year's class, right? I know the Andrew Mambu kid is rising out of Missouri, but Kelvin Banks Jr. has been that guy since sophomore year, maybe even freshman year. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. He's in their backyard, so it makes plenty of sense. He can come in and definitely be a legitimate starter to protect C.J. Stroud's blind side. Now, of course, you brought in Cam Robinson, but Cam Robinson was terrible last year after the Jaguar trade to the Vikings. And you want to bring in a guy that can definitely step in. And you never know what Cam when it comes to his durability and also availability at times. So I think it'd be best to definitely drive the tackle early and grab you one in Kelvin Banks Jr., who, in my opinion, is a franchise tackle. Now, at pick 58 in the second round, I have been going Jonah, and I'm sorry if I can't pronounce his name, Savwani. Jonah Savwani. I want to say he is Polynesian. Polynesian tackle out of Arizona. He can play both tackle and guard. I think he projects more so, and a lot of NFL draft analysts have been saying the same thing as well. He projects more so as a guard. He is a mauler. He is 6'4", strong as an ox, can roll you over in the running attack, and of course, agile enough to, maneuver around when it comes to pass blocking as well. Like I said, he can play both tackle or guard. You may want to put him on the right side if you're not feeling the current right tackle right now. But regardless, though, he can definitely step in and be that Swiss Army knife for the foreseeable future for this offensive line. And that is a great problem to have, right? Because Langston Tomlinson is getting older. He was not good for the Jets last year, in my opinion. He can definitely come in and take his minutes away immediately, right? And I do believe these two players can step in and be those franchise core pieces for Stroud, right? Which would be big. So I got them grabbing Sylvania. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Sylvana, tackle / guard out of Arizona. In the third round, pick 79. Right now, I've seen in some mocks that go the tackle right here. You know what I'm saying? Maybe even a cornerback. I don't think they need a cornerback. Safety, potentially, I don't think they need one. You could go linebacker right here as well because you have Christian Harris, Aziz Al-Shair, and Henry Tuatua, I'm sorry. But I'm looking at this receiving room, and yes, they brought in Braxton Berrios, Justin Watson. They still have John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson, but they need a guy. Tank Dell is going to be down more than likely. Not trying to put an actual date on it, but given his injury significance and how his recovery process is going, I don't bank on Tank Dell being ready week 1. Nor do I bank on him being at his full strength and his full powers, you know what I'm saying, probably to like midway through the season, if that, right? They did trade for Christian Kirk, but Christian Kirk is a slot guy, right? He is the slot receiver for this team. They need to find another outside guy to pair up opposite side of Nico Collins. He can be the Y to Nico Collins' X for Stroud to work with, in my opinion. He was here in the 3rd round. I'm not sure how he falls, but I know he's not a sexy pick because of the school he went to, but he was a baller for the school as well. If you watch Pac-12 football, especially during the year when Colorado was still there, he lit up that defense as well. A lot of receivers did, but he personally lit up on Travis Hunter, mano a mano, and he had a huge game. Damn near went for 230, maybe even more than that, give or take, right? Alec Iomanner, receiver out of Stanford. He is a big body receiver that has underrated speed, in my opinion. He ran a 4.42 at the combine. Excellent run blocker, in my opinion. And if he's not, even if you consider him a good to great one, he will improve, right? He has the body size you will want in an outside receiver being a legitimate run blocker, right? He's a ball player, in my opinion, right? He's not the best route runner right now, but that can improve with time. He is great at the point of attack when it comes down to catching the football. The game against Syracuse this year when he had that big boy catch in the end zone, crazy grab, right? He's a ball player, man. And I think he could definitely be a great fit for the Texans offense and not have to worry about them relying on Christian Kirk to have a bigger role than what he already has right now as a slot. You know what I'm saying? He pairs up nicely to what they want to do offensively as well. And I think the new OC from the Rams can definitely utilize a receiver like Alec Iomanner. In the 4th round at pick 89. Or is this the 3rd round? I'm sorry, just the 3rd round on my notes. I'm sorry, I scribbled it out. 3rd round at pick 89. I haven't gone to tackle right here. Now, of course, they re-signed Mario Edwards. You know what I'm saying? He was really solid for them, but you can never have too many interior guys, right? Especially guys that can come in and be, future starters, right? Mario Edwards is getting a bit older. And you had, Fadokowski last year, but, regardless, though, something wrong with having more and it being younger, right? I have been grabbing TJ Sanders, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. I think he's one of the most underrated D tackles in this year's class. I think he can definitely come in and be a force or a rotational piece on early downs to generate pressure, cause some havoc, and also be a run stopper as well, right? And maybe even as he gets better with time, he can be on passing downs, right? 3rd and long, right? Or just 3rd and shorts. Probably plugging them in on some 3rd and inching calls, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of the fact, though, I think he can definitely step in and be a future starter in this league. I love his game a lot. He has great size, and he's definitely a chess piece I would think that, DeMeco Ryans would love to have on his defense, right? Now, of course, it took a while for me to address defense with this team. I think they have a lot of great pieces already, but they can go D tackle or linebacker with this with this 4th round pick and so on for the rest of the draft. I think this Texans defense will definitely be the best in the AFC South once again. So that'll do it, man. That is the entire AFC South 4-round mock. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, like I said, I apologize if I, misspoke on names and I was speeding through kind of fast. You weren't unable to interpret some of my dialogue. Like I said, I'm not editing this, so I'm tired. But anyways, be on the lookout for another AFC division next week. Maybe the West, East, or North. We'll see. But until next time, thank you once again for listening. Subscribe to the podcast if you're not already subscribed on YouTube. Follow the pod on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts as well. And thank y'all so much for tapping in, man. It is draft season. We are 1 month away. It's getting closer, man. Getting closer to one of the best times of the NFL offseason. Probably the best of the NFL offseason. But anyways, until next time, that is a wrap.